Hi, automotive enthusiasts. Welcome to Boost Bureau, where today we set our sights on a machine that isn't just about crossing miles, but about redefining what it means to tour in absolute comfort and style. The 2020 Harley-Davidson CVO Road Glide. This is not a bike you casually stumble upon at the dealership. It's a motorcycle that arrives already dressed in a suit of custom paint, dripping in premium hardware, and backed by a price tag that places it firmly in the realm of two-wheeled luxury. But behind the gloss and prestige lies a story about ambition, identity, and the eternal tug-of-war between tradition and innovation inside one of America's most iconic motorcycle brands. In today's deep dive, we're not just looking at the specs on a page or the chrome that glitters under the sun. We're asking why Harley-Davidson built a machine like this, what it reveals about the riders it aims to serve, and how it fits into the bigger picture of a company navigating an uncertain future. The CVO Road Glide 2020 wasn't simply a model year update. It was part of a larger experiment in blending heritage with high-end exclusivity, a rolling statement of intent that said, Harley will not be left behind in the race for prestige. For riders who had long associated Harleys with loud pipes, wide handlebars, and classic Americana, the CVO series introduced something different. This was Harley reaching into the custom scene and saying, you don't need to spend months at a shop to achieve this look and feel. Instead, you can walk out of a showroom with a bike that already carries the polish of personalization. That decision sparks questions about what authenticity really means in the motorcycle world. Is it about sweating over modifications in your garage, or about writing a larger check for factory-perfect exclusivity? And why does this distinction matter so much to a brand whose identity is woven into the mythology of freedom on the open road? Over the next hour, we'll journey through three interconnected arcs. First, we'll look at the cultural moment and market pressures that made the CVO Road Glide 2020 possible. Then, we'll break down the bike itself, the engineering, the design, the lifestyle promise, and the controversies. Finally, we'll zoom out to consider its legacy. Did this machine solidify Harley's future in the luxury touring category? Or does it stand as a glittering artifact of a brand trying to hold on to its place in a changing world? That's the promise today. A story that blends machines and meaning, horsepower and heritage, chrome and consequence. So settle in, because the road ahead is about more than leather seats and long rides. It's about the pursuit of identity and motion, and how one motorcycle became a lens through which we can read the ambitions and anxieties of an entire industry. This is the 2020 Harley-Davidson CVO Road Glide as told by... To understand why the 2020 Harley-Davidson CVO Road Glide exists, we need to rewind and recognize the broader backdrop of motorcycle culture in America. The early 21st century had seen Harley fighting to retain its dominance as younger riders looked elsewhere for performance, affordability, and versatility. Touring motorcycles, once a staple of aspirational riding, began to feel like artifacts unless they could deliver something new. Into this climate arrived the CVO line, custom vehicle operations, a curated experience that promised to merge exclusivity with convenience. It was Harley's answer to the question, what if you could buy a custom bike right off the showroom floor without the weight or uncertainty of a traditional build? Micro story. Picture the American interstate at dawn. A lone rider setting off across the desert, horizon endless, wind pressing against the fairing. For decades, this image symbolized Harley's promise of freedom, but by the late 2010s, riders were asking for more than symbolism. They wanted heated grips, touchscreen navigation, and premium audio to soundtrack their journeys. Harley realized that the spirit of freedom had to evolve into comfort without losing its edge, and the CVO Road Glide became the embodiment of this balancing act. Context digest. At its core, the CVO concept was about scale. Harley had long watched the custom scene thrive on individuality, but independent shops couldn't mass-produce that level of detail. By bringing custom aesthetics in-house, Harley could offer customers a shortcut to individuality, factory reliability with bespoke style. Yet this move raised eyebrows. Can a motorcycle truly be custom if thousands of identical versions roll off the line each year? That paradox became central to the CVO identity. Microstory. The paint on a 2020 CVO Road Glide wasn't just sprayed. It was layered, detailed, and hand-finished with patterns that shimmered differently under light. Harley marketed it as artwork in motion, a factory investment that rivaled the craftsmanship of custom garages. For riders, owning such a bike wasn't only about mechanical performance, it was about rolling through town with a statement that money could buy exclusivity. The gleam of the tank said, "This rider values rarity and is willing to pay for it." Reflection bridge. This pursuit of exclusivity reveals a deeper tension between tradition and modern consumer desire. Micro story. At the heart of the CVO Road Glide lies the Milwaukee-Eight 117 engine, the largest displacement offered at the time in a Harley touring bike. On paper, it meant more torque and smoother cruising at highway speeds. But the story wasn't just numbers. Riders who swung a leg over could feel the surge when passing semis on the interstate, a sense of authority beneath them. Harley needed this visceral experience to justify the CVO's price, because no amount of paint or chrome could replace the primal thrill of torque on tap. Context digest, price was another defining factor. With tags hovering around $40,000, the CVO Road Glide demanded the kind of financial commitment usually reserved for cars or even entry-level luxury sedans. This positioned the bike as a statement purchase, not a casual weekend toy. In effect, Harley wasn't just selling motorcycles, it was selling status. For some, this was the ultimate symbol of success. For others, it made Harley appear out of touch with the blue-collar roots that once defined its image. Microstory. Imagine a longtime Harley rider who had built bikes in his garage for decades. He walks into the showroom, eyes the CVO Road Glide, and shakes his head at the price. To him, authenticity came from busted knuckles, not factory polish. Yet in the same room, a younger professional with disposable income sees the CVO as liberation, the chance to ride something that looks finished without the time investment. This clash of perspectives highlights the cultural crossroads Harley was navigating. Reflection bridge. Beneath the chrome and tech, the CVO Road Glide 2020 wasn't just a product, it was a negotiation between audiences. Context digest. Touring motorcycles had long been about endurance, seats designed for hours, suspensions built to swallow miles, fairings sculpted to shield riders from fatigue. What made the 2020 CVO Road Glide different was how Harley wrapped these touring fundamentals in luxury. Audio systems were upgraded to premium Rockford Fosgate setups. Seats were stitched in finer materials. Controls integrated seamlessly with digital displays. Harley wanted to show that touring could feel like business-class travel, not a test of willpower. Micro story. One owner described how the bike transformed a coast-to-coast trip into something closer to a rolling lounge. He could cruise at 75 mph, engine humming effortlessly, music crystal clear, with vibration tamed to near silence. In that moment, the CVO Road Glide wasn't simply moving him across states. It was suspending time, making the road feel like a curated experience. That was the promise Harley wanted every rider to feel, that touring could be luxurious without losing soul. But beneath this carefully crafted narrative lay a pressing question. Could Harley truly convince both traditionalists and new luxury buyers that the CVO Road Glide 2020 wasn't just a shiny distraction but a meaningful evolution? That question leads us naturally into the next chapter of its story, where we look closer at how the bike's engineering, design, and cultural reception sharpened the debate. Examining the CVO Road Glide 2020 in detail reveals how Harley-Davidson poured effort into making it both a showcase and a statement. Every element was intended to justify its elite positioning, yet each decision carried consequences. The Milwaukee-Eight 117 engine, with its commanding torque, embodied raw American power, but refinement was just as important. Engineers focused on smoother airflow and improved cooling, knowing that riders expected effortless touring at highway speeds. The bike's frame-mounted shark nose fairing gave it an aggressive stance and functional stability in crosswinds. This wasn't just cosmetic. Riders who clocked thousands of miles knew how much of a difference aerodynamics made on long hauls. Micro story. Imagine cresting the Rockies on a summer ride, wind cutting across the highway. On a standard touring bike, fatigue builds as the machine wrestles the gusts. But the CVO Road Glide slices cleanly, letting the rider focus on the scenery instead of the struggle. That single moment crystallizes why design details matter. Luxury here isn't only visual, it's physical relief. Context digest. The infotainment system was another cornerstone. Harley's boom! Box GTS brought touchscreen navigation, smartphone integration, and advanced connectivity that mirrored modern automotive expectations. It was a nod to the fact that riders weren't leaving their digital lives behind, they were bringing them along. By integrating high-fidelity audio from Rockford Fosgate, Harley blurred the line between motorcycle and concert hall. This level of sophistication signaled a shift. The touring experience had to match the standards set by luxury cars, or risk feeling outdated. Micro-story. One group of friends on a cross-country run discovered the impact firsthand. Instead of straining to hear tinny speakers over exhaust notes, they shared playlists that filled the highway with clarity. Each track became a shared memory, embedding music into the journey in a way earlier Harleys never allowed. For them, the CVO wasn't just a bike. It was a communal stage rolling on two wheels. Reflection bridge. These features underscored Harley's belief that riders wanted modern luxury alongside classic spirit. Microstory. The paintwork of the 2820 model carried names like Sand Dune or Smoky Gray with rich metal flake executed by artisans at the factory. Riders marveled at how the hues shifted under sunlight, turning a highway ride into a gallery exhibition. For Harley, this detail wasn't trivial. It reinforced the idea that the bike itself was collectible art. Owners didn't just park a machine in their garage. They curated an object meant to impress at rallies, dealerships, and casual meetups alike. Context Digest reception, however, was mixed. Loyalists saw the CVO Road Glide as an overproduced symbol of excess, far removed from the stripped-down Harleys of the past. New buyers, especially professionals seeking immediate gratification, celebrated it as the pinnacle of convenience. This clash fueled debates online and in dealerships. Was Harley selling out its working-class identity or evolving to survive in a market that demanded luxury? Microstory. At Sturgis, one of the largest motorcycle rallies in America, the CVO Road Glide became a lightning rod. Some crowds gathered to admire its sheen, cameras snapping like paparazzi. Others dismissed it as a trophy bike, better suited for short parades than long, gritty rides. The machine divided opinion but never escaped notice, and in that way, it succeeded in commanding attention, something every Harley strives to do. Reflection bridge. Whether celebrated or criticized, the CVO Road Glide forced the community to confront what it wanted Harley to be. Context Digest. Financially, the CVO line carried high stakes. Premium pricing meant lower volume, but each sale boosted margins and prestige. For Harley, this was part of a larger strategy to balance declining domestic sales with international aspirations. Luxury models gave the company talking points in markets like Europe and Asia, where exclusivity mattered as much as tradition. In this sense, the 2020 CVO Road Glide wasn't just about US riders, it was about positioning Harley as a global luxury brand. Microstory. Picture a rider in Singapore or Dubai, cities where Harley's outlaw image holds less sway but luxury resonates deeply. For them, the CVO Road Glide's price and polish aligned with the prestige of imported cars or high-end watches. Owning one meant status, a symbol not just of riding passion but of financial accomplishment. Harley leaned into this narrative abroad, using the bike as a calling card to enter circles beyond the traditional biker crowd. Yet for all its refinement, the Road Glide 2020 raised an unavoidable question. Could Harley maintain authenticity while appealing to luxury buyers, or was it creating a divide too wide to bridge? The answer lies in the long-term cultural impact of this machine, which we explore next as we consider its legacy and lasting meaning. Looking back at the 2020 Harley-Davidson CVO Road Glide, its legacy extends far beyond the showroom floor. This was never just a motorcycle, it was a cultural experiment, a litmus test for how far Harley could push the boundaries of luxury without severing ties to its heritage. Riders who invested in the CVO bought more than metal and rubber. They bought into a story Harley was telling about itself, a story of prestige, refinement, and exclusivity. Over time, the way the community responded to this story revealed the challenges and opportunities Harley faced in defining its future. Microstory. Consider the annual migration of riders across America's highways, from local rallies to national events. Amid rows of bikes, the CVO Road Glide always stood apart, shimmering like a jewel. Owners basked in attention, yet the admiration often came with questions about authenticity. Was this truly a Harley, born of grit and rebellion, or had it crossed into a realm where luxury overshadowed roots? That question didn't fade, it lingered, shaping conversations long after the ride ended. Context Digest. In many ways, the CVO Road Glide foreshadowed the broader shift of motorcycles from tools of freedom to symbols of lifestyle. As the average rider demographic aged and expectations changed, the line between necessity and indulgence blurred. Harley leaned into this evolution, positioning its CVO line as aspirational objects, closer to fine watches or luxury cars than simple machines. Critics saw this as departure, while supporters embraced it as survival. Micro story. One dealership manager recalled how the CVO Road Glide became the centerpiece of the showroom. Visitors, even those who couldn't afford it, gravitated to the bike as if it were an exhibit. Some snapped photos, others daydreamed about ownership. In that moment, the CVO wasn't about units sold, it was about magnetism. It created aspiration, a halo effect that lifted the brand's perception for everyone who walked through the doors. Reflection bridge. That aspirational power proved to be both Harley's advantage and its tightrope. Context digest. As the motorcycle industry wrestled with declining participation among younger generations, Harley's gamble with luxury had double edges. On one side, it attracted affluent professionals who might otherwise buy high-performance cars. On the other, it risked alienating grassroots riders who kept the culture alive through local clubs, weekend wrenching, and loyalty born of shared identity. The CVO Road Glide 2020 became the symbol of this tension, embodying both progress and controversy. Microstory. On a highway in Florida, two riders pulled up alongside each other. One on a well-worn Softail with patched saddlebags, the other on a gleaming CVO Road Glide. They exchanged nods, sharing the unspoken bond of the road. Yet behind the nod lingered a subtle difference. One rider wore the pride of decades of hands-on labor, the other the glow of factory polish. Both belonged to the Harley family, but their paths to belonging were worlds apart. That silent encounter encapsulated the dual identities Harley was trying to reconcile. Reflection bridge. In the end, the CVO Road Glide's impact is measured less in sales figures and more in cultural echoes. Micro story. Years from now, collectors may look back at the 2020 model as a milestone, an era-defining machine that captured Harley at a crossroads. Some will preserve them in pristine condition, showcasing the flawless paint and premium audio as artifacts of early 21st century luxury. Others will ride them until odometers roll past 6 digits, proving that even the most expensive Harleys still carry the DNA of the open road. Either way, the bike will endure as a conversation starter about what it meant to ride at the intersection of tradition and aspiration. Context digest. For Harley-Davidson itself, the CVO experiment sharpened strategy. By 2020, the brand was already investing in new directions: electric models, smaller displacement bikes for global markets, and collaborations aimed at refreshing its image. The CVO Road Glide was the counterbalance, a reminder that Harley's core still lay in big, bold touring machines. The dual path, innovation for survival, luxury for prestige, was risky but necessary. The legacy of the 2020 CVO Road Glide is therefore not confined to its specs or even its owners. Its true mark lies in how it forced both company and community to ask, what does Harley-Davidson mean in the modern age? And in answering that, the bike helped write the next chapter of motorcycle culture. The story of the 2020 Harley-Davidson CVO Road Glide shows how a single motorcycle can carry the weight of history, aspiration, and identity all at once. It arrived as more than transportation. It was Harley-Davidson's declaration that luxury could belong to the open road, that a factory-built bike could stand shoulder to shoulder with the finest custom creations. Along the way, it sparked debates that will echo for years. What does authenticity mean, and how does a brand built on rebellion adapt to an era that prizes refinement as much as rawness? For enthusiasts who dreamed of the ultimate touring machine, the CVO Road Glide delivered in every tangible way. Power surged effortlessly from the Milwaukee-Eight 117 engine. Paint shimmered like fine art under shifting skies. Audio systems transformed highways into soundscapes. Comfort turned long rides into journeys of indulgence rather than endurance. It was a motorcycle that treated every mile as an experience, not an obstacle. Yet its cultural role may be even more significant. The CVO Road Glide symbolized Harley's willingness to stretch beyond its comfort zone, to explore how prestige and tradition might coexist. It invited both admiration and criticism, uniting riders in conversation if not in consensus. And in that way, it succeeded in keeping Harley at the center of the motorcycle narrative at a time when relevance was not guaranteed. For those who own it, the 2020 CVO Road Glide remains a badge of pride, an emblem of having claimed the very top of Harley's factory-built offerings. For those who simply admire it, the bike stands as a reminder that motorcycles can still surprise us, still redefine categories, still raise questions worth exploring. As we close this journey, one thing is clear. The 2020 Harley-Davidson CVO Road Glide is more than a machine. It is a mirror reflecting the desires and dilemmas of an industry and a community in transition. It shows us how far Harley is willing to go to keep its legend alive, and how deeply riders care about what that legend means. Thanks for riding with us on Boost Bureau. See you next time, automotive enthusiasts.